to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their gilt rings. Right, the bouncers' gilt rings.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
Happening, people. Welcome to another episode of Talking Smart with
PUGH
and McCART, episode number 11. Joe, you still enjoying?
Yes, mate. Still am. Still good to speak to the Scotsman every Sunday. Today, Monday, bank holiday, big weekend of boxing. A lot of talking points. First of all, we've got to really stick with the USYK DUBOIS kind of fiasco. I don't know how far you want to go into this, Andy, but what was your initial reaction to the fight, first of all?
But the fight itself, right, I sort of said I knew that Usyk was going to win. I said to myself, Usyk win, but I was hoping Daniel Dubois would make a good account of himself because he's still young. And as heavyweights go, heavyweights coming at their prime, close to their 30s. Do you know what I mean? That's when they really come into their prime. But Dubois sort of, he's there or thereabouts. He's 24, 25 years old. He's obviously got punching power. So I was hoping he would make a great account of himself, announce himself on the world scene, which I think he did. I think he boxed well for the first 4 or 5 rounds. Do you know what I mean? Leading up to the low blow, whatever you want to call it. We'll talk about that. I'll try and I'll sit on the fence as much as I can, but I doubt I can. I think he done a great account, had a great account. So I just think that 12-round distance for him right now is he still needs to find that little bit extra bit inside him to get them 12 rounds, and I think he'll find it. But he's a heavyweight, and these big guys, because they carry so much muscle, 12 rounds is quite tough for the majority of them. And I'm happy for Daniel Dubois. I thought he done very, very well. I really did. But I mean, he was up against somebody like Alexander Usyk, who's had 300 plus amateur fights, Olympic gold medals, world championship gold medals in amateurs, undisputed cruiserweight, unified heavyweight champion. Daniel Dubois, absolutely limited amateur career. And then obviously he's only had 20 plus something fights in the pro rank. So I think he did very well. But I mean, Alexander Usyk, what more can you say about that man? Truly.
Look, without going into the low blow yet, I think it just shows the pedigree of Usyk. It probably wasn't his best ever performance, but I think tactically up to a certain point, Daniel Dubois done what he needed to do, done what he could do if he were to pull off that major upset. He'll definitely come again. He's still so young. And you are right, it is maybe conquering the later stages of the fight. It was very close up until what happened with the eye against Joe Joyce. And that was heading into the championship rounds. So I think if he stays with Don Charles, I would like to see him stay with a trainer longer now, because he's been with, I think, 3 trainers in his past 5 fights now. With Daniel and Don, I like their partnership. I like Don Charles. I think he's really good for the sport. So hopefully they will stick together. And look, I think a couple of rebuilding fights, and I'll chuck Daniel Dubois straight back in there, because he would have learned so much from that fight. Those rounds against Alexander Usyk, just trying to process his thought, try to process his movements, his footwork, because it is second to none in the heavyweight division, Alexander Usyk's movement, because he has come up from cruiserweight and he was undisputed cruiserweight champion. So I think he'll come away and come back a much, much better and complete boxer, Daniel Dubois.
I agree. I think that he is the future. Him, Jared Anderson out in the US, Moses Atumas, all these guys. You look at the Dilly Zhangs, the Joe Joyces, the Tyson Furies, the Wilders, the Dillian Whites, the Joshuas, Hergovich, I think, as well. They're all in the 30s.
Yep.
Late 30s, mid 30s. So, and then you've got the young crop coming through. I like Jared Anderson. I think he is definitely one to watch. I love Daniel Dubois, Moses Atuma, Fabio Wardley, these young guys. Fabio Wardley's a wee bit older. I think he's late 20s, but he's not got a lot of miles on the clock in terms of hard fights.
No,
so, he's a young He's a young, so the future's bright. It's looking good. I do think that Daniel Dubois is going to be a world champion. There's no doubt about that. He just needs to find that extra gear when it comes to those latter rounds in a fight, and I think he will find it. And the game plan that him and Don Charles was implementing, I think was the right game plan. I think to attack the body. I think I said this last week in the podcast when we were reviewing the fight. I said the key to it is try and take Usyk's legs away from him, go at the body. We've heard rumours about sparring, and he doesn't like it to the body, and I think that's a true statement. I don't think Usyk does like taking it to the body. I don't think many fighters do, but Usyk, that's maybe if he does have a chink in his armour, I think that's it. But you need to catch Usyk. And I'm going to go on to the low blow now because he almost caught Usyk. Now, when Daniel Dubois fired that shot in, I was watching it on my TV and I was like, no, that's not a low blow. It's not a low blow. I just didn't feel like it was up a upward trajectory, and it felt like it was up in his gut. And then you sort of see the replay, and then you see it hit the waistband, and it was below the top of the protector. And the referee always says, this is a normally before a fight, you see the referee's final instructions. Yeah. When the announcer puts his arm underneath his armpit and he gives him the microphone, he says, right, have a clean fight. This is high, this is low, keep it above here, whatnot. So he gives us his final instructions where is high, because some fighters like to pull their shorts and the protector high above the belly button. Some have it lower. So he does let the fighters know that this is okay, this is not okay. But the referee, he obviously seen it hit the waistband, called it a low blow. Usyk went down. And obviously we've got hindsight. We don't there's no VAR in boxing. So we can't stop, replay, look at the slow motion, look at this camera angle, look at that camera, but we can after the fight, after the fact. And I think when you've seen it after, I watched some guy broke it down. He was saying that once Usyk lifted his leg up, his protector came up way past it, and then he threw the shot. Again, it's, for me, if it's on that waistband, it's below the protector, it's a low blow. But then when you hear, you've got, what's amazing though, Joe, is that this has split the boxing fraternity, the boxing world. You've got guys that have been in there, done it. Carl Frampton, I think he's changed his tune a little bit. But he was saying, he was adamant it wasn't a low blow. You've got guys like Tony Bellew and Paul Smith and all these guys, Liam Smith saying it was a low blow, Spencer Fearon saying it was a body shot. I mean, it's sort of split opinion a little bit here on what is a low blow. But I think the rules are the rules. If it's on the protector, below the top of the protector and on it, then it's a low blow, because even below the navel where your bladder is, there's no muscle there, and getting hit there above the pelvic bone is I want to swear, is sore. So,
and I think it is very borderline, whatever way you look at it, whether his shorts were up too high, whether it wasn't made clear, because don't forget the referee should have gone and seen them both prior to the final instructions in the ring, and he would have given the rules then as well. There would have been rules meetings. So this sort of thing should be clear before the fight. And I think it has divided a lot of opinions. Do you think, Andy, that they will get an appeal and they will win an appeal?
No, I think we've seen these stuff when there's, like, for example, Maxi Hugh's appealing with the IBF after the Cambodia. I just feel like these appeals, they come to nothing. They always come to nothing. I think the boxing world, these sanctioning bodies, they want to move on to the next guy, and I don't think it will come to nothing. I think Frank Warren has said on TalkSport today that he's going to gather all the evidence, all the camera angles, the slow motions. He's going to present it to the WBA, wasn't it? This one, the mandatory. This is the WBA. He's going to present it to the WBA. But like I say, this thing takes forever. So I think it will be the Tyson Fury fight next for Usyk or Hrgovic. I think we're all wanting the Tyson Fury fight. But I think that, again, my initial reaction on that thing was a low blow. But then Usyk obviously took close to 3 minutes, I think it was, to get back up. And I want to ask you this, Joe, because Daniel Dubois was actually boxing quite well up until that moment there. It was at that moment he started to slow down. Do you think that took the wind out of his sails, sort of like, because he seemed a little bit more, maybe not gun shy to keep throwing to the body, but he didn't throw as many to the body after that. And maybe did that, because he has got that mentality where he's quite laid back, he's a cool, calm, collected guy, nothing phases him. I think that maybe took the wind out of his sails a little bit, that he lost a little bit of momentum going into that 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th round.
Look, I think when you're riding on a crest of a wave, whether that's anything, when you're on form and it was stopped for 3 minutes, you would probably lose your momentum. You're probably a bit disheartened if you've gone into camp thinking this is how you're going to beat Usyk, because we both said it, he needs to go to the body. So I think when that got taken away from him and when it got ruled a low blow, and he obviously felt it didn't, it didn't warrant that amount of break. It didn't warrant what happened after. Mentally, it probably was challenging for him, because now he's thinking, okay, I've got to take this big part of my game away. I've been threatened here, like with points, disqualification. So he really had to completely change his game plan. And when you're trying to adjust against someone as good as Alexander Usyk, well, we know how it ended.
And let's talk about it, because obviously there's going to be a lot of, I think, the fact that he went down with, I think it was the jab that put him down the second time, and he didn't make the 10 count. The referee waved it off. A lot of people are going to sort of question Daniel Dubois' heart again, but for a young fighter to go through that sort of the eye damage that he went through with the Joyce fight, I think that even that's going to be in the back of his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I know fighters, Ricky Burns being one of them, when he broke his jaw against Ray Beltran, he was very, very weary leading into that Terence Crawford fight after that. I think it was Terence Crawford after Beltran. I think it was. I need to actually look that up. Leading into his next fight, he was worried about the sparring on his jaw and how it would hold up and whatnot. And I think even Daniel Dubois, with the injury that he suffered in the Joyce fight, that when Usyk threw that jab, it was sort of like southpaw jab, but it was like a sort of corkscrew jab. It was one of them ones that came over the top and right down on the eye. And maybe he sort of thought to himself, oh no, not again, not again. But like I say, Daniel Dubois has got that equalizer. He's got power. He can hurt you no matter what. And I think that he can go away from that fight with, I mean, he was held high a little bit. Obviously, the disappointment where he still believes that he knocked Usyk down in that 5th round, and maybe he's going to get a little bit of kickback with not getting up after that knockdown. He wasn't dazed. He wasn't buzzed. He just stayed down a little bit too long and didn't beat the referee's count. So he's going to get a lot of flack for that. But again, I like Daniel Dubois. I really, really do. And it's almost because he's such a likable guy, and like I do like him. I find it hard to try and criticize the guy because I do like him. But again, that's just our job, and I'm not criticizing him. I just think that he will be a world champion again, and I think that maybe he could have got up. I mean, again, it's easier said than done sitting here on my couch watching two heavyweights going at it, because I'll never ever in my life feel what the power's like to get hit by a heavyweight. Guys. So we don't know. We don't know what the power. We don't know if that jab is that jab could be like a left hook for us, but we would never get the experience, so we don't know what it's like. But I'm on a tangent here, but as I say, I do want to say this: Daniel Dubois will be world champion in due course in the future. I will say that.
I would quietly confident agree with you there, Andrew. I think wait until this era's over. We're probably going to be done in 2 to 3 years, and then those 3 belts are going to fragment. The WBC will probably become available if or when Tyson Fury does what he does with that belt. But yeah, I think there's going to be a big opportunity probably in about 3 years where I think we're going to see a lot of new world champions, because those belts will fragment completely at some point before they tend to unify.
You mentioned, sorry for cutting you off there, Joe. You did mention the WBC belt there, and we all know who the WBC title holder is. Now,
yes.
Tyson Fury watching that version of Usyk on Saturday night. What's he thinking, Joe?
I think he's thinking probably the same as he's always thought. Hopefully someone comes up with the money to pay for that fight. Probably. I think he wants that fight. I don't think he's actually that bothered about being undisputed, but he's more bothered about the name of Alexander Usyk, beating the guy that's beat Anthony Joshua. And it is the fight really that everyone wants, and we can just hope it will happen. And without doubt, that will be taking up the news for the next couple of months, will they, won't they?
And that's it. I think I don't think both fighters want it. It's just them dotting them I's and crossing them T's and whatever it is that all these how these contracts work. Because I can sit here honestly and I do not have a clue how these contracts work. But obviously the two fighters want it. Usyk clearly wants it. Tyson clearly wants it. So it's just, as boxing fans, we've seen, like I said to you, we've seen Spence Crawford, we've seen Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. We're starting to see the fights that we've always wanted to see happen. So you're quietly confident that Daniel Dubois will become world champion. I'm quietly, very quietly confident we will see Tyson Fury and Usyk starting next year.
Well, only time will tell, but I don't know. I don't know. I'd hope, but I think that will be the perfect time. And we have got to have kind of see what's happening with Hrgovic, because he is next in line,
and he's
with the IBF mandatory.
He's refusing to step aside as well, isn't he?
And we've seen the IBF be strict with mandatories in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have to see. That could be a little stumbling block, but hopefully a deal could be struck and we will get the undisputed fight in maybe February or March, most likely.
I think we all want to see an undisputed heavyweight world champion in that four belt era. And yeah, I think we all want to do. But I'm going to just hard segue right again, because, like I say, I'm down in Manchester as of tomorrow for this fight with Liam Smith against the Chris Eubank Jr., the rematch. I am buzzing for it. I cannot wait for this fight. I mean, Chris Eubank, he's just being Chris Eubank. Do you know what I mean? But Liam Smith is Liam Smith as well. Liam, nothing phases that man. Nothing. You can say any crazy outlandish stuff to Liam Smith and it just won't bother him whatsoever. He's just not. He just isn't about that. Do you know what I mean? He's strictly business, and I'm actually buzzing for it because I've seen the gloves are off on Sky Sports. I've watched the back and forth. I've seen a couple of interviews from them both, and I think this is going to be this is going to be more exciting than the first fight, I believe, because Eubank has got a point to prove now after the way he got stopped and the way he lost the first fight. There's that elbow controversy, which I don't understand the elbow controversy. I'm going to be a little bit controversial myself here. When you're throwing an elbow, try and hurt somebody throwing an elbow like that. It has to be that. Do you know what I mean? For people that are listening on audio rather than a thing, if you put your hand up like you're about to arm wrestle and then swing your arm, that isn't really a strong elbow. But if you bring your fist down like you're throwing a hook and then come across with your elbow, that's more of a hard elbow. And I'm going to be, I didn't mean to be controversial there, but I just don't see how the elbow was a factor in that fight. But I wasn't in that fight. Chris Eubank's probably got a point to say to me if he sees me about that. But it is what it is. I think that Liam's Liam. Liam ain't going to change. He knows, he's confident. But I think Chris Eubanks, he's changed his training team. I don't know how much Bomac can get that extra bit out of Eubank. Only 6-7 weeks he's worked with him. But like I said to you, Chris Eubank has got a point to prove after the way he lost in the first fight. So I think it's going to be an exciting fight. Yeah,
I loved the fight. I loved it when it first came about. Very excited for it to happen a second time. What I love about this fight is you couldn't get two different types of people, could you? They are the polar opposites. And I genuinely think they don't like each other. It's an old school fight feel I like about this. Two big domestic names. There's no world titles involved, but it's a big fight. It's a big pay-per-view fight. And I think it could be different this time, because if you remember, everyone was shocked by how abruptly the fight ended, because going into it, a lot of people were picking Liam Smith on points, but no one thought Chris Eubank Jr. was going to get knocked out. He'd never been even shown signs of really being hurt badly in the past, and he's been in there with some big, big names, Chris Eubank Jr. So was it a case of it was just that one shot that just changed everything? Does he genuinely believe it was an elbow? And what will Bomac bring to the team? You've kind of seen the polar opposites of the effect of Bomac, someone who he's trained for such a long time in Terence Crawford. And that's proved to be a match made in heaven. And then he teamed up with Amir Khan, didn't he, for the Kell Brook fight? And we know what happened in that fight. So I am intrigued by the Bomac and Chris Eubank Jr. relationship. I know certain trainers have found it difficult, they've said, to work with Chris Eubank Jr. in the past. He's been for a fair few amount of trainers. But I'd like to see how they gel, and I'd like to see what he will do differently. Because before this fight, I thought we both knew what Liam Smith was about, and we both knew what Chris Eubank Jr. was about. And it took a lot of people by surprise how that fight ended up. Was that a shock? Was that a freak occurrence? Or is he just got his number? Is that what happens?
I don't listen. I think Liam Smith at 160 is strong. He's powerful.
Yeah.
Liam has got big legs. He's solid. I'm not going to say. I'm not going. I don't know why I'm going. I sparred him back in March this year, and I've sparred some good fighters in my time from being at Lock End, but just even that little stupid little move around I had with Liam, I had so much respect for how he moves and the way he's in range, but he isn't in range, and he's constantly on your chest, sort of thing. So for those full 3 minutes of a fight, you're constantly thinking of what's coming, where can I do, you don't have that 5-second little breather where you take a back step. Liam is there. So, and even I think at 160, that's where the best Liam Smith is. I think he spoke about going down to 154. I think he's still ranked 4 with IB, 4 with the WB at 154, but at 160 he's ranked number 2 with the WBO behind Gennady Golovkin. I just think that maybe 160 might be Liam's best weight. I'm just guessing here, but that's my thought process from the outside looking. I don't know what Liam's thinking. Liam's always said that he would go down to 154 if there's a right fight down there. But 160, I just think he just carries so much power up there. And I don't know if he can carry it down at 154. Maybe he can, but I just feel like 160 is where Liam's at, and I just think that's his weight. And I think if he stays there, he could possibly win another world title at 160. Because I still think he might not be in his prime, so to speak, but he's still a heck of a fighter, and he's going to give it to Chris Eubank again on this fight. But like I say, I'm intrigued because Chris, being Chris Eubank, and you've alluded to it, he's had so many different trainers, but he's always found a way to win. He's always got that them uppercuts and then the speed that he's got in his hands. So he's always got that in his arsenal. And like I say, he has got a point to prove. After the first fight, I'm sure he does not want to go out the same way he went out in the first fight. So I'm buzzing for it. Like I say, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to get down to Manchester and start this fight week, because watching these gloves are off and all these back and forths that the two of them had, I love them type of fight weeks, mate. And you know me, Joe. I love proper boxing. I love when it's proper boxing, not none of the YouTube stuff. But I do like it. I know that's your game. I know you're the YouTuber guy. You know,
but I'm just as much about boxing, real boxing as well, mate. That's the bread and butter. That's the bread and butter, and it's a fight that we'll all be watching, and I can't wait for it. I think we've got to give a mention to a fight on the Friday as well, Andy. The Battle of Scotland.
Yes, man. Willie Lemond, 44-year-old Willie Lemond, is taking on three-weight world champion. Ricky Burns. They're both in their 40s. You know what? I'm actually looking forward to this. I actually am looking forward to this. The thing is Ricky Burns lives the life, right? Ricky can do a marathon tomorrow if he really wanted to. Ricky Burns is fit as a fiddle. One of the fittest guys I've ever met in my life. He's 40-year-old and he's still sparring the kids that he trains. Do you know what I mean? He's an absolute machine. But Willie Lemond, I think that the fact that he's fighting Ricky Burns has brought that dog out on Willie Lemond. It's took Ricky Burns to get that dog out of Willie Lemond. And Willie has been training like a monster for the last 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it may be. He's took himself down to Anthony Crawler's gym to do some sparring. He looks solid. And when you get it's a 10-round fight at welterweight with 10-ounce gloves, I think it is. 8-ounce gloves, I can't remember. 10-ounce gloves. No, it has to be 10-ounce gloves. Does it? I can't remember anyway. 10-ounce gloves. So it's a proper fight, not an exhibition fight with two old guys going at it. It's a proper fight, and I'm actually going down to Manchester doing the weigh-in, then driving all the way back up to Glasgow to cover that fight, going home, then driving back down to Manchester for another 3 hours to watch see the EUBANK and Liam Smith fight. But listen, Ricky Burns versus Willie Lemond is going to be a good fight. It's just two old school fighters. They might be old. I forget if they're watching this, forgive me for saying it, but you're the same age as me, guys, and I feel old. So you've got two old guys going at it, but they're both ready for it, man. I think they're ready to put on a show, and it's going to be on BBC iPlayer and BBC Scotland. And nowadays, if you really want to watch it, I'm sure you can find it on a Fire Stick or something like that nowadays. So it's definitely one to watch, and it's got Scottish talent up and down the card. Future guys that I'm really looking forward to. Jake Lemond, Willie Lemond's son's fighting on it. Do you know what I mean? We've got Matty McHale. We've got two Scottish title fights. We've got Martin Crossan on it as well. So it's going to listen. It's a good card. I think that if you're in England, Wales, or Ireland, and you want to watch it, BBC player, why not give it a watch? It's going to be fun.
Is it going to be both their last fights?
So Willie Lemond, he's got the bit between his teeth now. He basically said, I asked him, I done an interview with him and Jake Lemond, his son. And I asked Jake, I said, Jake, is this going to be his last fight? Will he retire? And Jake went, nope. And I said to Willie, I said, are you going to carry on? I was like, Andrew, I'm loving it now. I love the fact that I love training. I love putting a sweatsuit on now. I love going on them runs. He just loves being back in camp, and he's doing it all proper now. What he didn't used to do when he was younger, he's got a nutritionist on board. So now, what he didn't have when he was fighting, and what the kids in that have nowadays, the nutritionist, strength and conditioning, all this sort of stuff, he's got that now. And the fact that he's brought that in, he's probably brought that new lease of life into his training. But like I say to you, Ricky Burns is an absolute machine. He can do a marathon tomorrow. He can do a marathon tomorrow if he wanted to. He's just that fit. He lives in the gym. I think, listen, it's going to be a good fight, and I'm looking forward to it. When you've got two jocks going at it, especially for me being a biased jock, I'm buzzing for that as well. It's going to be a good weekend, because then on the Sunday, I've got Ricky Burns, Willie Lemond on the Friday, Smith, EUBANK on the Saturday, and then the Old Firm on the Sunday. So
big weekend.
It might be a good weekend for me especially if the Old Firm goes my way. But it could be a good weekend for me.
That sounds like a pretty good weekend, mate. Sounds like a pretty good weekend. I might be in Denmark for an actual world title unification fight in Luna versus Dina, which is a fantastic fight, if you like, your women's boxing, down at bantamweight, same weight division as our British world champion Nina Hughes, and Ebony Bridges also holds a title in that division. So hopefully we're seeing Dina and Luna get on this week. Then end of the year, start of next, we can see Ebony versus Nina, which would lead to an undisputed fight, which we see fairly regularly in women's boxing. So that would be really good. Hopefully we might be covering that. But it's a good, busy week of British boxing, world boxing, Scotland, Denmark,
Bolton,
Poland. A very busy summer. I've got a show on the Saturday in Brentwood as well. So shout out Johnny Clark, top tier promotion. Jordan Reynolds on that card. Really good card against Matt McCullum. So we're busy this week. We'll be back though, and it'll be a fantastic week of boxing. Make sure you watch EUBANK Jr. versus Liam Smith 2, or Liam Smith EUBANK Jr. 2. Make sure you watch Burns, Willie Lemond, Dina Luna. So many fights.
Remember,
going to be busy this week.
Lyndon Arthur in Bolton.
Linda Arthur in Bolton against Suarez. Is that right? Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
Too many fights are covered. We need more people at IFL, mate.
Need more people like me and you, Joe. More people like me and you. Listen, young man, thank you so much for your time. As always, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, all the sort of usual podcast platforms. So make sure you give us a listen, give us a thumbs up and a like and all the rest of it. If you want to comment on how good looking or how ugly I am, do that anyway. I don't care. But listen, tune in anyway, guys. I appreciate everything. Joe, as always, thank you so much, young man. I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon, mate. Over and out.
Peace.
Choose to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
Must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their gilt rings. Right, the bouncers' gilt rings.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.